the more time you're thinking about it, the more time you're playing, thinking about the game, it just makes so much more value for the money that you put in it than if it's a game that you only think about when you're actually playing it. Welcome to another episode of 3 Men and a War Game. I'm Paul, and I am doing erotic friend fiction.
I'm Kevin, and Camera, you can take the day off. I added 10 pounds to myself.
And this is Potter, and the only thing I know about this intro is a weird gif of a girl twerking weirdly. So, yeah. Oh, God, those are noises I did not ever want to hear come from you, sir.
Oh, God, it's so funny.
It's the weird girl that tweaks.
Oh, God, so there's going to be an opening on this show for a host.
Tina, turn the car! Tina, turn the car!
Anyway, welcome to 3 Men and a War Game, everybody. Now that we've completely derailed the show right from the jump.
Are we sure that they want us
honestly,
back?
I could have turned the podcast into a Bob's Burgers podcast right then. I could go on for a long time.
I love
it. It's such a good show.
Anyway.
It's on my list. I've not watched it, but it's on my list.
Paul,
I swear.
Paul,
I think the advantage to that show over other ones is that, like, they're not necessarily really dysfunctional. Like, they all like each other.
Yeah, it's wholesome.
Oh, that's good. That's a breath of fresh air for
it's a very wholesome show.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it would be, but it really is. Yes.
Yeah, most of your animated families are all very dysfunctional.
Yeah,
when it comes to adult cartoon animation.
Not the Belchers.
No, the Belchers are like everything you want to be.
All right, so what are we talking about today, guys?
Well, we're still on our Aftermath series.
That's true.
And this time, Chris is on the hot seat because Kevin and I have both been on the hot seat. So now it is Chris's turn.
That's true. You'll be on the hot seat a little bit too, Paul. But tonight we're going to be talking about Corvus Belli's Infinity, which really any one of us could be in the hot seat for. But
fair. That is fair.
And I am going to be your interviewer this evening. And also, and I'll be asking both Paul and Chris most of the questions, but I think Paul wants to start by kicking off the elevator, or he wants to ask the elevator pitch and get us kicked off. So, Paul, I'm going to hand you the reins.
I'm fearing for my life here.
So, Chris, you get on an elevator. Okay, you get on an elevator, and getting on the elevator with you is Sherry Berry. And she says, "Oh, you're that guy from 3 Men and a War Game. Jesus. I've been looking to get into war games. I heard about Infinity. Why don't you tell me about it? We have a 10-minute ride."
Oh my God, only the North Carolinians will get this. Why this is so funny. So Sherry, Infinity is a great game for you to get into. Why? Because it's got an excellent beginner approach with a system called Code 1 that gives you all the streamlined rules that you need to learn the game that allows you to branch into the bigger game. It's probably one of the best designed beginner approaches in a miniatures game that I've seen in quite a while. So, and then you get big stompy robots, you get aliens invading from another part of the universe. You've got major giant corporations, what I feel you like that, taking control of everything and having military powers behind those corporations. It's fantastic. You should play it.
All right. That's it. Actually, I feel like that was a real elevator pitch to a bad politician.
Yes, it was.
Paul, now for the war gamers listening, can you evaluate slightly on the elevator pitch for Infinity? What's the thing that you want? You have a war gamer in the elevator at Adepticon. What is it? What is the Infinity pitch?
You're never not playing the game, sir. No matter what's happening, you are involved. You can't be like, oh, let me run to the bathroom while you do your stuff and just tell me how I did, because you are actively playing the game at all times.
It's always your turn in Infinity.
That's right. And it's true. It's true. Like you're helping your opponent do their stuff. They're helping you find your, check your angles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you really are always involved. And that's one of the things that makes the game so great.
Yep. Best you go ever.
Yeah. And go back to our Infinity episode where we triple sploosh it and talk about why and what it is, what that makes that mechanic so great. Both with the AROs and your player turns and all that in your orders. But
the only triple sploosh in the history of 3 Men in a War Game.
It's true. So, Chris, what is the main appeal that Infinity holds over you? So as we're going back, this is a game you are hyped to go back into stores and play. What is it that holds the main appeal for you about Infinity?
So I think it's threefold for me. So the first one is going to be the models. These are some of the best models, if not the best models on the market. I will go out there on a limb and say that the sculpts are fantastic. Every faction is themed very well for what they're doing. And then the great thing is that within those models, and the theming, with the sectorials, you have different themes within one faction. So from an aesthetic standpoint, you can really pull and draw on one thing if that's what you like. Like, so for me, for Pano, I am super into the military orders. And, I dive deep into that, and it's very, knight themed, heavy armor, swords, that thing that speaks to me. You got cloaks, you got your tabards, the very medieval knight kind of feel. So the models are one thing. Two is the always, like you guys just said, always your turn. As anyone from a longtime listener here knows, we prefer alternating activations, but with this game, with it being an I go, you go in the ARO system, you're always playing. So that's great, because even in alternated activations, there are still times where you're just sitting there just kind of waiting. This game, you're not. You're always involved. You're always doing something. And I think the third piece for me is the thematic gunplay in this game. You can really see and imagine and feel what's happening on the tabletop. It feels thematic. It feels good from a gameplay standpoint, and you can really just see the events unfolding. Just not with little pewter models running around. You can see it in your mind, and I love that aspect of the game.
Damn, son, you just sold me the game all over again. And I mean, some of it is because I know what you're saying is facts, straight up facts. Right. I mean, unless you love artichokes, because then there's really only one faction for you.
Right. Exactly.
Paul, what is the main appeal that Infinity holds for you, sir?
I like it because it is fairly heavy on the simulation side of things, but still feels like a game. And I think they hit a pretty good balance in N4 between the compromises you have to make for a game while still making it feel Infinity deep. There's still stuff that feels a little heavy, but at this point it's thinned out enough that it's workable a lot more. So I like the fact that it feels straight up like a firefight in a futuristic world, which is, exactly what they're going for. So that gets me stoked up every time. Plus, I love the interaction between players. And I know we always talk about the game, but I feel like with the way Infinity works that way, and always having to talk to your opponent about the game, just makes it all the more fun, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that's one of its strong points. And I think that's a reason why the community is really good. And again, I've said it before, the switch from N3 to N4 amazed me because it was the least controversial new edition I've ever seen in any war game ever.
Yeah. It's hard to dispute that. I want to go back to Chris's point about the game being cinematic, though, and hopefully not put you guys each on the spot too much, and also try to not go into too much detail. But if you can, think back to a specific example that you have of the game being very dynamic and very and cinematic, just so that like a listener that may not have played the game can really, because you can hear that a lot, right? People, this game is cinematic, and they're like, what does that mean? You know, and sometimes a game disappoints you, and I don't feel like Infinity disappoints you at all in this respect. So if you guys can each give one example, that would be awesome.
So one comes to mind for me. It was one of my early Code 1 games against Paul. And I was running a vanilla Pano list in Code 1, and so I had a NIS sniper. I
hate this story.
So it was my NIS sniper, and he was up in the tower, and so for anyone that's just listening for the first time about Infinity, one of the great things about it is everything works off of orders, and each model in your army list can generate one and sometimes more orders. But anyone can take those orders in there within certain parameters. There's certain ones that you can and cannot, but regular orders, you can activate the same model as many times as you have regular orders if you want. So if you got 10 regular orders, you can activate this one model 10 times. And so he's up in the tower, and I'm drawing a bead on a dude, and boom, headshot, take the guy out, and it's like cock reload, all right, activate another order, run and get in a different position, grab another target, boom, shot, cock reload, run and go take another spot, find another target, boom, cock. I mean, I took out 4 dudes, and normally with your snipers, you aren't aggressive with them. Like, they're usually there to cover lanes of fire, things. But like this, for whatever reason, I was on a roll, and it just, in my mind, it's like Enemy at the Gates, and it's freaking Jude Law. I think that's right. Who was in Enemy at the Gates? Just running, cock and shooting, running, cock. I mean, that's in my mind. That's exactly what's going on, and I could clearly see this dude just running, taking position, pulling the trigger, got him, run, take a position, pull the trigger, got him. Like, it was so great. That was one of my most fun and favorite moments in an Infinity game so far.
Yeah, he was seeing cinematic moments, and all I was seeing was 2 and 3 on my dice.
Yeah, your dice were not doing well that day.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna answer, and the thing that I'm thinking of actually happened several years ago now, when I tried to get into Infinity for the second time, because it took 3 times. And I was playing Jesse Ward, and we were playing one of the missions with the control room, the 8x8 control room that sits in the middle of the board. And so there were buttons in there to push. So I got like 2 guys into the control room and just kind of tucked them into the corners, each one guarding a different door. And with the angle that he had on the one, he was able to snipe one of them down, but the other guy he couldn't get an angle on. So he was well hidden. And what ended up happening is he moved guys up, and one of them came into the door, and we ended up just shooting at each other. And I ended up rolling a crit, even though he had like 3 or 4 dice rolling, and I had the 1 since it was an ARO, and I crit. So I automatically hit, and then 3, that's a wound. So the way I envision this going in my head is that this guy busts into the room and tries getting off his shots, but my guy just like blasts him in the head, and all of his shots go like up into the ceiling as he's falling down. So it was pretty awesome seeing that and having that happen. It was pretty awesome. It was a very memorable moment.
It's so cool. And if you will oblige me and let me tell one too.
Absolutely.
Please do.
It is 3 men.
I know. I'm supposed to be interviewing, right? And as you were talking, I just had this like really great moment come into my head. And so it was basically the end of my opponent's turn 2 into the start of my turn 3. And at the end of turn 2, he had placed a character out at one of the consoles in the middle of the game. So he's got a guy out there basically winning an objective point. So if you're thinking this like a movie, it's a guy who's run out and he's like hacking the computer, right? Doing the job that he needs to do. And so I think I'm the main character in this movie, right? So I have my badass guy sneak around the corner. He goes to take, just lean in and take a shot, puts a couple bullets in and my opponent's character ducks behind the console, and all of a sudden my character just drops dead. Bullet through the face. And that's because his sniper came out of cloak from a higher ledge halfway across the board. And what he knew is that he was protecting his main character who was doing the objective hacking. And that what really happened is he was the star of the movie, right? My character was just a guy that came around the corner and tried to shoot him, but he had his boy and a sniper nest to just like deck my guy in the face.
Yeah, I that's one of the great things about with Infinity as well too, because you have all the cloaked models and the hidden stuff. Like I can just imagine like the digital camo just like coming off of them real quick right as they're firing at you. It's such a great like theme for the game. I love it.
Yeah. It was really, really, really cool. Like it was I wasn't even mad. I was like, you know what? I'm not even mad. I should have known that you wouldn't have gone out there completely unexposed, which I thought you were doing. I should have known better.
Well, and basically what this is telling me, Kevin, is that yes, the game has a high rules overhead. Yeah. But it's worth it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's the thing, right? Like there's games with high rules overhead that you're just like, this isn't worth the time and effort to learn all of this. But with Infinity, it feels worth it because of that cinematic nature of the game.
Oh yeah, I would say it is worth it, right? Like there's just no doubt in my mind it's worth it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So going forward from the main appeal, guys, so starting with you, Chris, well, you guys can both sort of ping each other on this one because you're in the same community, more or less. But the question is, do you have a community in the area, or will you be building one as the pandemic lifts?
We do actually have a community, and we've gotten pretty lucky that we've all gotten to at least stay connected through Discord, during the pandemic. I know we actually, our local community actually just did a tabletop simulator league so we could get some games in. And people, when they have time, are like, hey, who wants to get a game in? And we're utilizing tabletop simulator. Not so much me, just because I appreciate tabletop simulator as a tool. It's just not a format that I want to play games as. But I mean, I am appreciative for that it's there for everybody else, and it's helped keep our community connected. And we do, right as the pandemic entered into its height, we actually got one of our local guys to be a war core. He got approved. So we actually have a war core for our area as well too. So we are lucky in that standpoint that we've stayed connected. And I think once all this is done, we've got some great plans on going forward and getting some tournaments, getting some events, and getting, just back out on Wednesday nights and, throwing dice.
Amazing. Do you think either one of you guys will step up to be a war core? Sorry if you answered that a little bit.
No, I think I cut my teeth on that with Atomic Mass Games with Marvel's Crisis Protocol, and figured for me, it's not for me. I'm not the kind of person to run events and do those things. It's fun. I enjoy being a part of the community, but running it and making sure it thrives, that's just some pressure and stress that I don't want.
I do this. This is my thing. I don't have time for that if I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know how much of a community organizer I can be either. Like having the free time that I've had through the pandemic, like it'll be a lot just to get out and play a couple.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird when that starts happening, and I'm like, oh, one night a week
I can leave my house.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. I mean, I've got a couple of friends who who are vaccinated who, I've been able to sneak out and play some card games and stuff with. So it's it's weird. It's like deeply weird being like, because we've done them outside, at little card tables in a garage or whatever, and it's still just so strange. So guys, what does a person need if they want to jump in and start a post-COVID group. So they've listened to this episode, they've listened to our episode on Code One, and they're like, you know what? Infinity sounds amazing, and I want to dip my toes in and really like try and start getting a community together. What does a person need?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. It sounds like my meeting's at work.
Is this
Right, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, you need people that will want to play with you as well, too. Barring that, if you've got a couple of friends that are looking at it, honestly, my first thought is start with Code One. Get one or two people to go out there and see if they wouldn't mind splitting the Colostrum box. Currently it's the only box that they've got right now, but they are releasing another Code One 2-player box later on this year with Ariadna and who was the other one in it?
Tunguska,
Nomads. There you go. Thank you. Yeah. So Ariad and Nomads. So, and it's their 2 sectorials. So it's the Russian Ariadna and, as you just said, the Tunguska, right? I hope I pronounced that right.
I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Yeah. So that's coming out. And obviously with those comes, and both of those will probably, or I know Colostrum has terrain. It's got some starter missions for you to run through. It's got dice. It's got templates. It's got all the models. And I'm pretty sure that I'm 99.9% sure that the 2-player one that will come out later on this year will have the same thing, just obviously with the different factions. And actually, just this past March, Corvus Belli did a expansion kit for the scenery, the terrain that comes with the Colostrum box. And this isn't like, cheap rinky-dink terrain either. Like, this is really grade A cardstock terrain. We've talked about it before in our in-depth Infinity or Code One episode. So I mean, it's decent terrain. I would start there. See how everyone's feeling. There's a lot of options that you can go into with all the different, factions, because obviously Code One doesn't do sectorials, which are those like more themed lists that have more special rules. So get an idea for where you want to go from there. See what factions you like. Look at the models. Infinity has so many different themes and model count that it can't. I mean, I'm on my 3rd faction now with Infinity, and it took me a long time to find a place that I was comfortable. So, I basically went through 3 factions to do that. So this is one of those games that you can do that. Rule of Cool is always still there as well, too. But again, I would say just start at Code One, start small, and move your way through there. Eventually, all the armies are going to get pulled into Code One, and they will be doing small releases for them as well, too, as time goes through. So just check that out, start there, and then move forward as your group gets comfortable, with the game and moving forward to more advanced rules, bringing in sectorials, and other things like that.
Cool. Paul, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think he nailed it.
Or subtract?
I think Code One is essential because it does teach you all of those core rules that you need and kind of keeps the model count down to help reduce that overwhelm. Because it is a high rules overhead game. So Code One does a really good job of reducing that, and I think it's just a really good place for newer players to come in, and a lot of the factions are cool. So even if you just get in on one that's in Code One and then decide you want to branch out into something else as you get into N4, I don't think you'll be disappointed with that.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing, if you guys don't mind here, and what I'll say is that those operation boxes, if you are the person in your area and you're like, you know what, I want to get people playing Infinity, buying one of those operation boxes is the thing to do. You buy that box, you paint the models. So there'll be 14 models inside at 7 to a side. And they have a beautiful mat, extremely well done terrain. And this is set up to a point that if you were to talk to your FLGS and say, hey, I need a table so I can demo this game, though that box by itself sets up to a beautiful demo table. And it is so good looking that even if you paint them with just like contrast paints and you barely try, people are going to be like, oh my God, this game is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. What is this?
Agree.
So that's the 2 cents that I'll add to that this particular topic. Now, gentlemen, starting with Chris, do you see Infinity being one of your top 3 games? And what we mean by top 3 is it one of your main stable games, and will it be the game you're playing week on week?
Oh, 100%. Like, I will be bringing Infinity with me every night, guaranteed. Regardless if I'm playing something else, on a night, if I'm playing a different game, Infinity will be in the car with me. I'm like Paul. It took me a couple tries to get into Infinity, and this time it's really clicked with me, and I love this game. It's a ton of fun. It's my game right now. This and Legion, and because they both fit different niches with, very small scale skirmish game, which is very fast paced, very quick, into, large scale, mass battle Star Wars. So, they fit 2 different things. So I can play both of those and feel comfortable with those being my top 2 games. Probably Infinity edging Legion out just a little bit when I'm not geeking out over Star Wars, which will happen when new stuff comes out. But I think Infinity just edges it out just a little bit because I can get so many games in so quickly with Infinity.
Fair. Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. I am absolutely horrible at the game, but I love it so much that, it'll be...
Amen.
Yeah, I mean...
I suck, but I love it.
I enjoy the fact that I get my lieutenant killed on the first turn every game I play. I enjoy that I get shot going to the button. Loss of lieutenant sucks, but I still I've played games where I've been so bad that we played the top half of turn 1 and I played so badly that I'm like, all right, let's re-rack. But the game itself is just so it's so good that I don't care. And that probably says a lot about it. Plus, one of the things we didn't talk about is that the game has a really heavy off the table presence, right? So even if you're not playing, it's a very easy game to think about and, think about what models you might want to play with, or even just, how to play or thinking about, how you can improve, thinking about different angles, movement, thinking, just all those little things that you can think about a game when you're off the table, just brings more value to the game in my eyes. The more time you're thinking about it, the more time you're thinking about the game, it just makes so much more value for the money that you put in it than if it's a game that you only think about when you're actually playing it. And I think that's huge for me as a selling point for it.
Yeah, and you're not kidding about that off the table time. It's and even leading into the games, right? Just there's so much of it. Yeah. So any closing thoughts or any questions that you guys have for each other that you wanted to ask about Infinity or to me?
Yeah, I actually do, Kevin. Maybe you don't talk about it much, but what faction are you playing or interested in playing, and why?
I'll be playing O12 throughout the probably through most of N4 if I can, at least until a faction comes out that really grips me, like a new shiny one. Partly because I needed a faction to play, and they were one of the factions that was in the box that I bought. Partly because I picked a badass color scheme, and then also partly because when I started playing them, I realized that I love glue. And they're the faction that has glue guns. And plus it's kind of silly, being space cops. So, I'd love to say that there was some huge hook that drew me in to O12, but it was really a combination of small factors that made me really fall in love with them. And their aesthetic is great to me too. So it just, everything lined up. So I'm playing O12, probably Starmada.
Awesome. And Potter, you already talked about MO. And your deep love of the knights and the heavy armor.
Yeah, I mean, just ever since I was in college, I was a history major. Specifically, was going to specialize in medieval history. So when I started playing GW games, went Black Templar. Went from there to War Machine with Menoth. So the religious zealot kind of nutballs is my thing. And Pano with military orders, they fit that to a T. So Deus Vult.
And how about you?
Yeah, for me, as I said, combined army. Two reasons. First reason I got into it was because they were 300-point box at the time. So it was kind of that convenience of it. But as I learned more about it, I just love the fact that they're kind of that alien faction that's kind of sits outside the human sphere of influence and is trying to not necessarily care what humans they're taking over, but everybody should join in with them. Not quite in the Tau way of like, greater good and all that stuff. It's more aggressive. So, and the other thing is that they kind of play completely different than what I tend to usually play, because I try to usually stay with more like horde armies and mass armies as opposed to elite armies. So it's been not only just trying to figure out Infinity, but trying to kind of figure out that different play style, which might be one of the reasons why I feel so terrible at the game. But I feel like it's always a mental exercise to figure that out for me. So I've really been enjoying that and figuring out how to leverage their eliteness. And eventually I'll figure out how to not get my lieutenant killed in turn 1.
Yeah, honestly, I'd actually like to see some US Ariadna in your hands and see what you do.
that or Hak Islam.
15 orders. Let's go, boy.
Right.
Yeah. Because for me, Hak Islam is interesting because they are fairly, doctor heavy as well. So, a lot of irregular troops and the ability to pop them back up, hopefully.
And boy, lots of different ways to bring troops on the table too. Mm-hmm. Like you can, if you want to run a lot of stealth, you can run a lot of stealth. If you want to run a lot of drop troopers, you can run a lot of drop troopers.
I love drop troopers.
Want to go tag heavy? Yeah, me too. I have 3 deltas now. I realized. I really like drop troopers.
Yeah, there's a reason why I have a Kodali for every sectoral.
Yeah, and I like deltas are just great. Oh man, what a cool model! If you want to see a definitive Infinity model, like one of those quintessential models, like the 012 Delta with boarding shotgun is just like perfect example of what how gorgeous the minis are. Yeah. Anyway, guys, Infinity, very, very, very good. Thank you so much for selling this game. I honestly, I was like, yeah, I love Infinity, but not really knowing when I get my next game in. And now I'm like about to send a text to my buddy that I play with right now and be like, so when are we playing Code 1?
Yeah, and I'm about to send the same text to Chris.
April 24th there, buddy.
Yeah, that could be.
I should have my Cultstrom expansion terrain by then.
Oh, good. So we can have a control room.
And so thank you to our patrons. As you guys can tell, that we're here week on week again. We are back. So thank you for your continued support, especially through times where we weren't as release heavy. You guys are the reason that we keep going. So thank you for your support. If you are interested in supporting us, you can find us on patreon.com/3minuteinawargame. Also at all these social media sites at 3 Minute a War Game spelled out. Thank you to Static as in City for our excellent intro and outro songs. And I don't think I missed anything else. So bye. Well, what I want to say is we should just snippet that for you and let you just post that somewhere, because that was probably the best 2 to 3 minute description I've ever heard of this game.